we're gonna fly.
Okay, hi guys, Leo here, CEO and founder of Leo Educations. Welcome to our webinar today. I have here with me Miss Tone. She's a registered migration agent who has been working and living in Northern Territory for most of her time in Australia, as far as I remember, right?
Yeah.
And so today we're going to talk about what are some of the pathways that you can sail down in Northern Territory. What are some misunderstandings? What are some changes happening lately that many of you might not be aware? And also, I'm very curious to ask her a few questions about the whole COVID-19 impacts on Northern Territory migration policy, because as you guys know, it does impact not just NT, but like all across Australia. So I really look forward to this webinar. Thank you for doing this, Tone.
No, oh good. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tone. Lovely to meet you all. Welcome to the webinar today, and feel free to ask any questions that you may have, even though we have collected a list of questions that are very popular questions amongst all of you. So yeah, feel free to shoot us any more questions. We will try to answer everything. Yeah. For
sure. For people who have questions, you can also put in the chat box as well, and I will pick those questions, and hopefully we can answer that questions throughout the webinar. And if anybody wants to book a consultation with Tone after this webinar, feel free to let me know as well. We'd love to help you guys with any inquiries you have. But Tone, how about this? Let's kickstart with some of the questions that I have received from our students, which is, again, this is a very common question. So the first one would be, can a student do 2 years diploma in NT and still apply for 190, or must they do university level in order to apply for 190 in Northern Territory?
Yep. Okay. So in terms of that question, doing a diploma, because for 190, basically the nomination criteria is that you have studied in the Northern Territory in a college or a university. So even if it's diploma, you study in a college, and after the 2 years, you should still be able to meet the residence requirement for 190 nomination. However, I do have to mention that if you are only just studying this qualification, and you don't have another qualification, for example, let's say ICT analyst, you are only you've got a Bachelor of IT, and then you are studying a diploma and advanced diploma in leadership and management, and you've done that for 2 years, but your bachelor degree in IT was obtained elsewhere. After the 2 years in the Northern Territory, you should still be able to apply for the 190. The key thing is you need a nominated occupation, and you need to be able to obtain your skill assessment.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the diploma that they do when they're on their 485, it don't have to be relevant to their skill assessment, right? It don't have to be, is it?
It doesn't have to be relevant to your nominated occupation. Obviously, it's good to have, or maybe let's use IT as another example. So maybe you have a Bachelor of IT, and then you've worked elsewhere, overseas or other states and stuff like that, and you came to the Northern Territory to do the diploma in leadership and development. After 2 years, you may be able to nominate your occupation as ICT manager or something like that. So it can be relevant. Yeah, it depends on what previous qualification you have, and what experience and skill and you have. Yeah.
Because I think we talk about this about the recent changes about the 190 now. So apparently, after they complete the 2 years, they need to live in NT for another 6 months. Is that what?
So that's going to be one of the very hard things for people that already had a 485 graduate visa. So, because obviously you guys all know you can only have graduate visa once in your lifetime as a primary holder. So, if you used it, obviously you won't be able to apply again yourself. But definitely the NT is changing its 190 nomination criteria to after you completed 2 years of study in the Northern Territory, leading to a qualification, obviously, you still need to live in the NT for another 6 months after you finish your qualification, and then you can apply for your nomination. And in all of that, you still need to demonstrate that you've made an effort to try and find a job in your nominated occupation, which wasn't the case before. So yeah, but I know the changes was meant to come into effect as of 1st of July this year, so 1st July 2020. I know a lot of students have made a lot of voices. They've sent emails to Migration NT. They've also contacted their education provider, which is like CDU or some Charles Darwin University. So there might be a chance that they will consider a flexible arrangement for those people that have studied 2 years already, and then also they are finishing soon. So, but we don't know any of those yet. But at this day, what we can confirm is the changes is definitely coming. Yeah.
Okay, because it will be a lot of problematic for a lot of people, because from my clients' database, they want to go to NT. A lot of them after they finish their 485 actually, so
Yes.
or maybe about to finish.
Yes.
So these guys, they were in Sydney or Melbourne or even Brisbane, and they are on their 485, and they'll probably have about 6 months left, and they decided to go to NT to do the 2 year study. But in saying in what you just said, then there'll be a lot of troubles for these guys, because after they do their 2 years, they need to apply for another visa just to stay there for another 6 months, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So if you already use your 485 visa, obviously you don't have another thing that gives you full working rights and all those. You will need to consider another type of visa. There are still options available, like including maybe even a employer sponsor visa. But we just need to look at it case by case, in that circumstances. Like I understand a lot of people came here while it's on their 485. So
what can we do? Okay. Now, I mean, still about the same topic when we're talking about is, when it comes to choosing the courses for the 2 year study, a lot of the people that I know, they usually choose things like leadership and management, or business course, or project management course. So just some very generic course. Would you recommend them to do this course, or would you recommend them to do some other course that can actually, have a better employment prospect? Because I don't think the leadership course would help them much, isn't it?
The leadership courses. The leadership courses would be harder in terms of just like getting employments and stuff like that. Because leadership and management, you are probably looking at a managerial position instead of a just basically a officer level, like just a working person. It's probably more of a managerial position. So my advice would definitely be, if you are able to study, and then if you don't have that much financial constraints and stuff like that, definitely think about a higher education qualification first. Like for example, nursing is actually very good, and even with like teaching's really good as well, even though it's a 4-year degree. But at the same time, if you are interested in the leadership and management, and then this is the path that you want to go down, definitely go for it. There are still ways around it, but it might just take a little bit longer to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Because to be honest with you, for most cases they just do this course because they think it's cheaper, it saves money, and and apparently it can get them 190, but obviously in terms of employment prospect, this is not, it's not as good as other courses like you mentioned.
Yeah, because doing this qualification, you don't actually have a nominated occupation. Like there's no occupation that you can nominate just out of this qualification. You need something to go with it. So yes, if you are doing it out of interest, or if you are still figuring out what you're trying to do next, maybe would be a good transition phase but yeah, definitely if you can afford it, and then if you have the capacity to study something else, definitely go for higher education, because not just employability, it's also in terms of like permanent residence and stuff, it's probably a smoother pathway.
Okay. Yep. Got you. Okay, which brings me to the next point, which is so I think you said to me that before, that jobs nowadays are getting like a lot more important in terms of helping the clients with the state nomination, right? Jobs play a bigger role nowadays, the nomination.
Yes. So definitely, jobs definitely play a very important role when it comes to getting nominated. So this is why one of the changes for 1st July is basically you need to demonstrate your genuine efforts to getting employment in your actual nominated occupation. And then also typically for offshore applicants and stuff like that, for certain occupations, you need to have a job offer before you can get nominated. So jobs are very important in terms of getting nomination by Migration NT. I think I can also answer another question of yours, which is nomination refusal. I haven't come across one, but I've heard one from a client, which the refusal reason is basically I don't like Migration NT didn't think that this person would be able to get a job in the nominated occupation. Yeah, so this is the only one that I am aware of, and then I heard it from a potential client of mine because he also has some concerns about his nomination.
Yeah, so because I think it's not just NT, but like I think like Tasmania as well. Like in Tasmania nowadays, they put a lot of emphasis on jobs. Like even though people satisfy or they're eligible for the nomination, but that doesn't mean that they can get the invitation. So do look at the jobs prospect like very much nowadays. So
definitely. But like to be honest, like if you going back to my old concept of if you actually study in the Northern Territory, let's say if you have 2 years time studying here, or even 3 years or 4 years, you should usually be able to find some sort of relevant employment in your related to your study or related to the occupation that you are going to nominate by the end of your study. So for like the studies and stuff like that here, majority of the courses, it comes with a lot of placement, a lot of intern opportunities. So if you're performing well and then you know what you're doing, what we found is students generally will be able to find a good job after they finish their studies.
Okay. So while we're still stuck at this job thing, it's a good question. Like, what sort of jobs do you think can the student find the most there? Because their first priority should be find jobs in their own fields, right? But of course,
definitely.
But it's not always the case that they can find jobs in their own fields, isn't it? It's not always the case.
Not necessarily, especially when they are still studying. Because Northern Territory is actually quite diverse, and like there's like different ethnicity here, but like at the end of the day, English is still the most widely used. It's not like Sydney or Melbourne. Like there's a lot of people speak Chinese. There's a lot of people speak Vietnamese, and all that. And there's a lot of employers mainly employing people in those languages. Whereas in the Northern Territory, English is still very important. I think in our last catch up, I mentioned that the biggest employer in the territory is actually the Northern Territory government. So I think they employ like 50-60% of the workforces. So and one good thing about that is they do give opportunity for graduates, even if they are on the 485 visa, opportunity to gain a graduate or intern position. So they are always hiring people for those. And they don't just look at your visa and be like, oh, you're not Australian citizen. Oh, you're not permanent resident. We're not hiring you. As long as you have the work, the right working rights, they are very happy to give you an opportunity. Obviously, you have to meet all their other selection criteria and stuff too. So yeah, there's still, I still think there's a lot of opportunity here, not just in like hospitality, like working in the restaurants and all those things. I do see foreign students getting very good positions in the government or in bigger companies in Darwin, in like IT, in engineering. A lot of them are doing accounting, auditor. So accountants and auditor, they hire a lot of international students as well as locals. So yeah, so I still think there's plenty of opportunity there. So just while all of you need to keep in mind that while studying, you really need to build your language capability. You need to be able to demonstrate that you can speak English fluently, because this is just, it's English here. Yeah, really.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I totally agree with you. Like in Sydney, I know a person who can't speak English and they still can get a job. But probably that's not the same case in NT.
No. Yeah, and probably same as Hobart as well, because the English speaking population is still greater than all the other ones. Yeah.
And so you're saying that this is a very good point here. You say that so NT government is probably the biggest employer in NT. Yeah. So where can they find jobs from NT government? Is there any sites? Is there any website?
Like including the council, but I'm not sure about the council. But I don't think they actually have job vacancies as much. But just look at the NT jobs, like it's got NT government jobs or something. If you Google it, you should be able to find it. It's just jobs.nt.gov.au. Maybe I'll type it out.
It's similar to Tasmania. Tasmania have the same thing. It's job.tas.gov.au. Same thing.
Gov.au. Yeah, so you should be able to find some. You need to filter it and see, because Northern Territory is not just Darwin. We still have Catherine, we have Alice Spring, we have smaller towns and stuff like that. There are still opportunities there. You just need to look through it. And then they are pretty generous when it comes to hiring. Yeah, so give
good.
yourself though. Yeah.
That is very critical information you share with us. And one more thing while I'm still here on the job part, like, so other than NT government, what do you think are the second or the third biggest employers there? I know it's hard to say, but do you have any like idea who are there some good like big employers in NT that my clients can refer to?
Yes, engineering firms, accounting firms. Yeah, definitely. So they would be like, I think they would be the second biggest group of employers. Yeah, there are still fair bit of accounting firms here, whether it's like the big four or there's other smaller ones as well. And then also there's different type of like engineering consultancy here. So for those graduates, even though if like you may not graduate with an engineering, but it could be something related. It could be like a draft person or something technical. Yeah. So there's a lot of those here, and also a fair bit of construction. But however, we don't actually have any like carpentry or trade qualifications available here, unfortunately. But yeah, there's still a fair bit of construction going on here because we are a developing city. Yeah.
Got you. Which brings me to the next question is, a lot of people ask me this question is, when people have, do you see that NT is moving towards 491 more than 190, just like other states? Do you see that we are going to that direction, more 491 than 190?
Yeah, I think so. Doing that whole delaying the eligibility to apply for 190 by 6 months is basically, I think it's one of the ways they trying to encourage more people to apply for 491 instead of 190. I think it's just a trend in the federal government. So, and just all the states and territory government just has to follow the way it is. But it is true that I'm sure all the regional areas or regional or remote centers, they are all trying to maintain their skilled workforce in the regional area, because obviously with more development, we need people with skills and experience to bring to those areas. Yeah.
So for 491 nomination criteria, can you tell us a bit like what if someone wants to apply for 491 in NT?
If
has it
they
been issued yet? Have you seen any 491 being granted yet?
Yes, it has been. It's quite similar to what we talked about before. So if you didn't study in the Northern Territory for 2 years, you study in another state, basically you have to live in the territory. So while it's like, for example, while you're on the 485 visa, come here, try to find a job, live here for 6 months, and then you can apply for 491. Obviously, you need the just generic criteria like a skill assessment. You need English and enough EOI points and that sort of things. Yeah. So yeah.
So you need to work in the relevant field as well for 491?
Not necessarily. I think it's occupational specific. So if your occupation says, like for example, marketing specialist for offshore applicants, you need to have a job offer. And then the rest of them, you just need to demonstrate that you have lived here for 6 months, and then let me just quickly go to my page. Yeah. So and then 6 months later, you can apply for nomination. Is it confusing?
Because if that's the case, it sounds quite doable. I mean, if they simply need to go there and then work in any kind of skill jobs for 6 months and apply for 491, it sounds quite doable, isn't it?
It's quite doable, but it's just the fact that other than all of those, it becomes a generic criteria that you need to demonstrate that you have an employment perspective. Like you need to, like for all the NT nominations, you need to demonstrate that you will be able to find a job now. Yeah.
So, but they never specify how many hours. Do they have like any specific hours you need to work?
It's like full time. It's usually more than 35 hours.
So we need. Hello.
Hello.
I'm sorry. So we need not have to work in the nominated occupation in NT after staying for 6 months.
You have to work in a closely related or a related, like your nominated occupation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I got. Guys, if you have any questions, just put in the chat box first before you ask, just so that I can manage everyone. Just put in the chat box, and then I will ask for you. Okay, so I understand now because in Tasmania to have 491, they just need to come here, do 1 year study, and then as long as they have the skill assessment, they're eligible. Again, the word is eligible, but it doesn't mean they'll get it. So that's something that people need to understand. But for NT, from what you said, they just need to go there, work, find a job closely related, or even better in their own field, work for 6 months and live there for 6 months. Then they should be able to apply for 491, right?
Yeah. If they graduate from other states. if they grade like they have a qualification from another state or territory, so they can come here, live here, and work here for 6 months, and then they can apply for 491. Yeah.
Got you. Now, I know this is a bit generic questions here, but do you see a lot of employers in NT who actually not just from like white Australian, they actually have like migrant backgrounds as well? Have you seen a lot of those sort of companies with the employers who are actually from migrant backgrounds who are opening business there?
There are still a little bit. Like I said, it's still a very developing city or a developing territory. So there are plenty of them, like in different, not nationality, but different ethnicity. So there are still migrant like directors and different type of company. There are definitely some. Most of the time, if your skill suits what they need, they will be happy to hire you.
Yeah, I just got a questions here from one of our attendees. She asked, for a couple graduated from different states, do we have to come together for 491? So this is a very good question. So let's say the husband keeps staying in Sydney, for example, and the wife goes to NT to study or to work. Can they later apply 491 for both of them, even though one person is in another state?
Usually, let's say the husband would be, the wife would be the main applicant. Usually, the main applicant needs to meet all the proper criteria and stuff like that. But obviously, yes, I know as much as you guys want to remain in your in the cities and stuff like that, it's definitely recommended to come together, because there would be some sort of compliance issue transitioning into when you apply for 191. And then I need to mention that the 191 legislation is not published yet, because it's not going to be enforced until 2022. So we're not going to know, like we make like guesses and stuff like that. It would be very similar to the AA7. So from the 49A to AA7, it will be very similar to that, but we still don't have the full picture. So the recommendation, the recommendation is definitely you need to be, if you commit to one state, like not just the Northern Territory, you should stick with your commitment, and then you need to obey all your legal obligations.
Yeah, because the reason why they're doing that is because one person needs to make money from Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, so they can afford the other per spouse to study. That's the morale behind it. That's the motive.
I understand, but at the same time, the Northern Territory actually has higher incomes. Like our average income is actually quite high. We are probably not the highest one out of the whole of Australia, but we're definitely higher than like SA, Tasmania. Yeah,
that's good.
So our income's fine. Like employment income's pretty reasonable here, even though our cost of living is slightly higher than other major cities as well. But at the same time, you have less reason to spend your money. Like you just don't get to spend your money as much. Yeah, really.
So you see your saving just go increasing your saving, right? Because you don't spend much.
You actually save a lot of money here.
Okay, because you just raised a very good point just now. You say that so far there's no legislation for 191 yet, right? There's no legislation yet.
Nope.
Okay, because there has been a lot of rumor going on. Like some people say that once a person has let's say a spouse, both people have the 491, and then later on the husband can be the main applicant. If the husband makes the $53,900 per year, even though the husband was a dependent while they are on 491. So, but there's no confirmation about who can apply for 191, right? There's no, you know what I mean, right? It's not
I know what you mean. Yeah. I think that's one of the questions that comes up quite often. A lot of people are concerning about that. I have to say that the role swap thing should be okay. So the main applicant becomes the secondary applicant, and then the secondary applicant becomes the main applicant. It should be fine as long as the main applicant meets all the primary criteria. Like for example, live here, work here. What else? Yeah, live here, work here, make enough money, make enough income, and then also the secondary applicant, dependent of member of the family unit, is a member of family unit like spouse or children and those. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
yeah, because that question is being asked like all the time, and different people say different things, but I think you raise a good point.
We've also had a lot of discussion around that one. So at this stage, even though the 191 legislation hasn't been published yet, we still don't know what's going on. The thing is, we think that it should be okay. Yeah, this one should be okay. You should be able to do the role swap. Yeah, so one person earns that 53,900, and then that person can become the main applicant, given that he meets all the residence requirement. The residence requirement, I think, it's one of the most important things other than the income, because I just really want to emphasize again that 53,900, it's actually quite achievable here. Yeah. It's actually pretty achievable here. If you can't, you are working at a job that gives you only like 40,000 a year, find a second job. Yeah.
Absolutely, because I think a lot of people are very pessimistic when they think about making money in regional areas. You know, they have this idea that if they go to regional areas, that means they have to slash their income. But in most cases, this is not the case, right? It's absolutely not.
Yeah, because there's something called, like, it's a unwritten thing, but there's something called like a remote allowance. So because we're working in a regional area, because we are here, the employers are here, if they need to attract people with better skills and experience and qualification or whatsoever, like skilled workers, they need to pay a higher amount for those people to move from major cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland and stuff like that, to move into like Northern Territory, Northern Queensland or other remote places, because there's still a lot of remote places here. Look at those people working in mining. Yes, they make a lot of money, but at the same time they work long hours, long shifts, they fly in, fly out, they work in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Okay. I just got a question here. This lady asks, which course is good to study in NT? I know it's a very generic question because like you can't just. But again, there's a lot of like things to consider, right, when you choose a course. But generally speaking, what would you say? Which course is better? Is good to consider? I know it's hard.
Yeah. I know I've mentioned before, it really depends on your financial capacity as well as your study capability and capacity as well. So if you have sufficient English, you have enough funds, like finance-wise, you have enough money, go for an higher education qualification like nursing. Teaching's pretty good, but it's 4 years. Yes. IT, if you have those technical skills and then are interested in those areas. Also, I would probably like social worker and aged care are pretty good too. But yeah, it's a long study journey. So if you are prepared for that, and if you're not, you need to think about your age as well, because obviously the EOI depends on, like, there's a big element, it's on age. So I have to think about those. If you are thinking about postgraduate degree, like a master, doing a 2 years master, obviously your options are not a lot. It's basically doing the teaching, education, and then accounting, IT and engineering. Yeah. So, but my favorite to recommend would always be nursing. Nursing is actually really good, and social worker now because there's a huge demand for it. Nursing, if you have pretty good English, have sufficient funds to support your study, and then it's a very good one, to be honest. Like nurses here make pretty good money, like.
Wow.
Pretty good money because they do a lot of
That's strong.
overtime, and a lot of them work at the hospital. The income's very, very good. Yeah.
Yes, and I can see that. I think this COVID-19 is actually waking a lot of people up. You know, when it comes to choosing the right course to study, because
Yeah.
I think before that they just take it very lightly about the course that they want to do. But
Yeah.
after this COVID-19, I feel like people are starting to wake up and feel like, okay, I cannot just choose a course because there is a pathway for PR, but I also have to consider the employment prospect.
Definitely.
Because as you can see now, a lot of people have been punished because the course that they have studied it's just there's very less employment prospect, and that's why I have seen a spike in demand to study nursing, like what you just said. There's a lot of people want to do it. So when we are at this nurse topic, I just want to ask you. So because the problem is a lot of these guys, their background is in accounting and IT. A lot of them, you know, and so to switch from those industry to nurse, it's not that simple because the SOP, you know, the genuine of the candidate will be questions. So have you seen anyone doing that who have changed for different field to nursing?
It would be quite difficult. You really have to we need to understand your story of you changing the course and stuff like that. A lot of it, when you talk about something sort of like personal and it makes sense, it probably would get through the SOP. It's just if you are already in accounting and IT background, I know it was just an example, but if you're already in those fields, go for the masters. If you're in some business or commerce or something, maybe you can consider changing even to nursing. You can say that my writing's really good. This is one of the elements that nurses have to do because they do lots of reports. I think a big element of the study, the courses, is a lot of essay writing. So that could be one of the reasons, just as an example. But a lot of that genuine temporary entrance statement thingy, a lot of it needs to come from their background, their own story, why they would like to change their course. A lot of it has to come from that. Yeah, it's not like, oh, I think I'm interested in that. You need to talk about the reasons why you've changed your mind. What have you seen? What have you come across like that?
Yeah, because I have people, because we do a lot of admission for nursing as well, and some people just think that they can just switch to whatever course they want to switch, but it's not the case, unfortunately, you know.
Unfortunately not. So if you are starting fresh, nursing is definitely a very good one. I think I've started recommending nursing since I started as migration agent. So and then recently, because of the COVID-19 situations, we have seen 190 for registered nurse granted in 3 days for SA, South Australia.
Wow.
So I think medical stream or medical related occupation will always be very it will always be popular, and always in demand. So if you have the capacity to study those in those areas, definitely consider it.
Yes, and because you've been there for a while. How many years you been in NT now, Tuan? I forget.
12.
12 years. Okay.
12, yeah.
Awesome. So you've been seeing NT changing a lot, and over the past, let's say 2-3 years, and up until now, have you seen the number of nominations issued by NT government increasing, or is it decreasing, or what has you seen? What trend are you seeing?
It's definitely increasing because it's becoming more and more popular. Back in the day when I was at uni, my friends that were studying, they were international students. They never really had to worry. Like they do worry about like getting PRs and stuff like that, but they never really had to worry about like the occupation ceiling, how many invitations or how many visa in this category has been granted. So it was not the case back in the days. Whereas now, because it is becoming more and more popular, and there are more and more people like choosing accounting, IT, engineering. Engineering's okay, I think. But so that's why people start to worry. And yes, they are definitely issuing more and more invitations at this stage because there's more and more people apply. Yeah.
Okay.
It's becoming more and more popular. So that's why what I'm trying to say is if you are determined, you need to go to a state where it has a good transition like to permanent residence via study. You need to make a decision quick. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because good point. Because I've been seeing that. I think I saw some statistics somewhere that I think you told me as well that last year in NT there was 3,000 international students, right?
Yeah,
just last year.
3,500. Yeah, ish. Yeah, it could be more around like 3,500 to 4,000. Yeah.
And let's say out of those 3,000, do you know roughly how much invitation can we? I know this is nobody can tell, but roughly how much are we expected to see? Maybe next year, moving forward into next year, how much invitation can you project or can you forecast?
We probably won't be able to predict, but if we look at the historical grants and stuff like that, because Northern Territory doesn't actually publish the number like their stats and stuff like that on their website, so there's no way we can really predict, or there's no way we can know how many invitations they've issued. The only way we can look at is the skills select, which is on the Home Affairs website. So you can actually see how many skilled visa that's actually granted, like it's by state. Yeah, so I think the occupation ceilings and stuff like that, like, or the maximum number of grants for Northern Territory, it's still enough, still sufficient for international students, because out of those 4,000 students, they're not going to apply for nomination in one go. Maybe a quarter of them will, or maybe a third of them will. Yeah, so yeah, it's still good at the moment, but you need to start planning about it early, because another thing is because the whole of Australia is shifting its focus to 491. That's what we can see. They haven't said it, but this is what we can see. This is the trend, because they're trying to keep people in regional areas. If that's the case, the ratio between 491 and 190 may change. We don't know. It's not announced yet. It's not published, but it could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So because as we coming towards the end of this financial year, we're moving into a new financial year, and there has been a lot of rumors and a lot of news saying that the federal government is slashing migrants in the upcoming financial year. Do you see there's going to be like a huge drop for migrants?
No, I don't think so. They need migrants. Yeah, they need migrants, especially in this economy. So I still think there might be changes, but it won't be a massive slash. Yeah.
Got you. And I told the same to my clients as well. If there is some changes, it's gonna be probably 189 is gonna get punished. Like it's gonna get worse for 189 visa.
With 100 points.
What's that?
With like 100 points invitation, which it's just ridiculous. Yeah.
It's getting out of control, and I think it's just gonna get lesser and lesser. Do you think so? Like we're going to that direction that 189 is just gonna get.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because back to the whole regional thing. Yeah. So
yeah. Because some people, they just hope to like increasing their points. They do their PY, they do their NATI. But by the time they have more points, the whole thing goes up already, you know.
Yeah. And not everyone can do PY. Not everyone gets to do PY. So yeah, that a lot of people would just lose that 5 points because they can't. Yeah. So that there might be changes there coming, but probably not anytime soon. Maybe not in the next financial year. Not massive changes like what happened with 491. I don't think it's going to happen. I know a lot of states and territories are still closed. Like offshore applications for 491 and 190 is still closed. Some are open now, but let's see what happens at the end of the day. I think in this economic downturn, I think everyone needs to, we all need the migrants to bring in some cash flow. It's not a nice way to say it, but like we need, it's like it's like even with like revenue on like visa fees and stuff like that, it's a big revenue. It's a big revenue for the government. If there's
but this very interesting questions here, Tone. Before we finish, here Isha asks, is there any validity period for professional year when applying for PR? Like, does it have like any due date that it's no longer can give you the 5 points for professional year?
I don't think so. It should be valid. I haven't had that question. I've never heard, like, no one has actually asked me that question before. Have you done it a long time ago? Because people usually just do it and use it straight away. That's the assumption. Yeah. But whereas sometimes, like, you know, skill assessments, they do have a validity. If it's not stated on the statement, like the skill assessment outcome, it would be like 3 years or something. Yeah, but I've never heard that professional year has a validity period. I can come back to you for that. Yeah.
Okay, sure. I think we will go towards the last 2-3 questions here, which is back to the jobs thing, because I think again, I always tell my students and my clients that jobs are very important, so when it comes to jobs in NT, do they have a lot of jobs in aged care or in health section, like community service, social work, and all that? Do they have a lot of jobs in those fields?
Yes, there's a lot of demand for that. Even with aged care, definitely. With social work, definitely. I've seen a 7 days, like 7 working days grant for social worker in the last couple of weeks, 190. So you can see they are given priority, especially obviously in these circumstances. That's why I recommend the social work as one of the courses that you can study, even though it's a 4-year course. Yeah. So they are somehow given a little bit of priority, but I'm not sure whether it's purely due to COVID-19 or it's just what they're driving towards. But health-related occupation definitely always in demand. I just talked about when we talked about nursing. Aged care, yes. There's still, even though Darwin's actually a pretty young city, but there is a large group of aged care facilities. Yeah, so I still think that it will definitely be in demand. Yeah. In terms of, we can probably go into another occupation as well. When we evaluate aged care and childcare, I personally think that aged care is better, slightly better. Yeah,
because I always tell my student that aged care is the future. Like, because if we look into statistics, aged care is the fastest growing industry in Australia. And it's not gonna be any changing any time soon, because the aging population here is just so huge, and they need someone to take care of them, and whether it is COVID-19 or not COVID-19, they still need people to take care of them, right?
Yeah, and there's like a lot of like nursing homes and stuff like that. But they don't just need nurses. They also need like aged care people or personal care people, like carers and stuff like that. So and I don't know if it's a good thing to say, but because of the Aboriginal population, those people also sometimes need personal care as well. Yeah.
Mhm. Like,
Cool.
and that includes things like disability worker, social
Yeah.
support worker. It
Yeah,
includes those, right?
support worker as well. There's a lot of facilities around here, and not just in Darwin as well. In like smaller towns like Catherine, Alice Spring, there's a lot of those, and a lot of those facilities like support work, aged care work, those like facilities or the company, it's actually government funded. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always tell my clients, go where the money goes, because that's where the jobs at, because the government pumps so much money into
Yeah.
aged care, like nearly $500 million.
Yeah.
They pump into this industry. So there's got to be lots of jobs for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the best part is the entry to level is very, very low. You can just need a certificate 3,
Yeah.
even just certificate 3, isn't it? You don't have to have a master. You still can find jobs.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good field. It's a good field because I know that the occupations in demand, like the whole area, that whole industry. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Which brings me to probably the last 2 questions is, as you know, as you mentioned about the 491, let's say someone who has been granted 491 from NT, and for some reason they want to leave NT to another regional areas. Do you see that they can do it? And if they cannot, or can they not do it if they want to leave after they get the 491?
Definitely not recommended because I can't answer the question mainly because we don't have the 191 legislation. So I don't know whether it's going to be any compliance issues. Obviously, your condition says you have to remain in as a holder of 491. Your condition says that you have to remain in a regional area, designated regional area. So, but my recommendation is definitely if you are committed to one state or one territory, you should stay there. Yeah, you definitely should stay there just to avoid any issues because we don't know. We actually still don't know what the 191 legislation looks like, but just to be safe, it definitely worthwhile. Yeah, it's not like you go to another region. Yeah, it's not like you go to another regional area, you find a job anyway. Yeah.
So I tell people to do the same. You just stay in that regional area. There's a lot opportunities than they could think. It's just whether they're looking for the right opportunity or not.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
like for example, I see, I tell my clients maybe they're looking for a job in accounting, and I say yes, it's good to find jobs in accounting, but at the same time, be open to find jobs in aged care as well, or even upgrade your qualification to get a certificate 3 in aged care, and look for jobs in aged care because it's sometimes it pays better than being an accountant. I know people who makes more money working as an aged care workers than as an accountant. So it's very easy to get it. Just even 3 months you can finish the course, or 6 months you can complete that certificate. So it's very doable, right?
Yeah, it's doable. It's definitely doable. So yeah, also while we're on the jobs topic, I know some of you may have concerns about not being able to find a job in your nominated occupation, but just be mindful that keep it in mind that as a 491 holder, you don't actually need to work in your nominated occupation, and then you can have 2 different jobs as well. So let's say your nominated occupation is internal auditor, but you can't get a job as an internal auditor, but you are working as a accounts clerk or something like that, like something like administration. Let's say you're just working as an admin, and then you're only making 45,000 this year, like per year before tax. So you need to make up that 8.5, like 9,000, let's say. Just go work at a restaurant on your weekends or something. Yeah, you can work more than one job to accumulate that income. And just remember that income is before tax. It's before tax. So it's actually quite achievable. It's very achievable. Yeah, so if that's your
Can they open their own business as well, Ton? Because I have you asking me this, like, can they open their own business and run that business and pay themselves, let's say as a director, pay
Technically,
themselves as a
you can as a ABN holder, you can pay yourself as well. So like you can create, but it would be if it's a sole trader. Sole trader might be a little bit tricky because it's hard to demonstrate the work hours and stuff like that. But whereas like if you own a business and you are director of that business and you're paying yourself salary and things like that, you might be able to demonstrate. Yeah, because you remember, other than making that that income threshold, you still have to work full time and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And one last question here. I'm thinking of is that it's because this is more like for 489, because I heard that for people who goes from 489 to 887 nowadays it takes about 2 years. Is it? Like it takes a long time to get the visa now. Because you know how people, they want to quickly meet that 1 year work experience, live there for 2 years, and then they want to apply for 887. But I think nowadays the time it takes to get the invitation for 887 is not so very long. It's getting very long.
It is over a year now. It's just over a year now. It's probably not 2 years. I think 2 years is an exaggeration. But it's definitely more than 1 year now. Yeah, it is taking a little bit longer. I think it's not just because they're trying to keep you there. Not because of that. It's just because the volume and everything. We know that in the last couple of months they had a increased volume of like no further stay waiver requests. They had a lot of tourist visa applications and stuff like that. I think it was just some of the teams were taking to facilitate the volume, helping other teams and stuff like that. That's why it has slowed down the process. I'm not sure about the 2 year. I've never seen someone that was waiting on AA7 for 2 years. Definitely, it's probably, what are we now, May? Probably around 14 to 15 months. Yeah, it's over a year now. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay, guys. If you have any questions, we can take in another 3 minutes before we end. If you have any questions, you can ask her, and then I will try to ask Tone for you. But Tone, do you have any other comments on this Northern Territory, or any advice for our students and people that go there?
I think it's very important to choose the right course. If you are thinking about doing studies here, it's one of the key things that I always ask my clients or students when we do the admission for them. Is this what you want? What are you trying to achieve? Make sure you ask yourself those questions before you do it. And definitely, like Leo recommended, think about employment, think about employability before you make those decisions. And I don't think you need to be too concerned about jobs, even though there has been a lot of negative impact in terms of like business and stuff like that in the Northern Territory. But I don't think you need to be overly concerned. Leo runs a really good job coaching program. I'm sure we'll be able to assist you and facilitate some of the challenges that you come across. And so, yeah. Other than that, yes, I'm also going to talk about, I'm offering a 15 minutes, 15 free consultation for everyone that have attended the webinar today. So if you need to ask me something specifically, please get in touch with Leo and then he can pass on my contacts. But please make an appointment with me before we do the consultation. Don't just call me on the spot, please. Thank you.
Awesome. One last question here. I think he's asking a very good question here. Is that he say, I'm from Queensland, so if I'm planning to come and study a master degree to apply for 190, will I be to apply for? Okay, I think his question is like, what is the likelihood of getting 190 now in NT? But I think we have answered that, isn't it?
Yeah, you still can get it. If it's very specific related to your previous experience, previous like qualification, just send us an email and then we'll be able to help you as part of my offer of that 15-minute consultation. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah, I think thank you so much for today, Ton. I appreciate your effort. And guys, if you have any questions or if you're planning to move to NT, you really have to plan carefully. And Ton is happy to help you. So if you have you want to book a consultation with her, also you can DM me on our Facebook, and I will arrange a time and a date for you to speak with Ton for more information. Thank you for your information today, Ton. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. Have a good
Okay.
weekend. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.